everyone. We're just going to wait for a few more people to join us before we begin. But today's session is a very interesting one because the person I'm speaking with is someone you've met as an artist mentor, and she also is the author of Art First's newest book, People and Places. Um, we're just going to wait for Gopa to join us before we begin. Thank you all for being here and on time. I wonder if Gopa has joined. Let me just check. She's on her way, I'm sure. Is this any better?
Hello, Gopa.
Hi, Vinona. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me today.
Well, I think maybe I should say thank you for writing such an interesting book because that's why we're both here to have a conversation about people and places. And I'd like to wait for a few more people to join in before we kind of dive into our conversation. That's okay with
Definitely.
you?
Yes, of course.
But I'd like to just start maybe by introducing Gopa, even though for a proper introduction to Gopa, I would encourage all of you to go to our first live highlights on Instagram, where we have listed each and every conversation that I've had with an art first mentor. So if you'd like to get to know both Gopa's inspiration, perspective, her art style, and where exactly she comes from, what kind of creative place she comes from, the best place to go to would be the Instagram live series that we've done before this. Um, but to begin with, uh, Gopa is a Delhi-based artist in Gurgaon. She's an educator and a graduate from MS University of Baroda. Her interest is extensively lies in her own work, and Indian miniatures are an area of interest for her. Um, the reason I thought we talk about or just I'd introduce Gopa as very interesting interest is because of the book that we have today. Gopa, can you please hold up the book for everybody to see?
Uh, yes, so this is the book. I don't know if you can all see it
I think
properly.
it's a little flipped, but this is great.
Yeah, I know it's a mirror image of the book.
Everybody meet people in places. This is Gopa's book. This is our book that we've worked on. It was a very collaborative experience, right, Gopa? People in Places was the brainchild of Gopa, who is the author, Ritu Koda, who's the publisher, and Mira Kurian, who is the editor. In addition
Yes.
to the extensive contributions from this team of three, we also have a lot of gratitude to express to this
All the
incredible
artists,
list
yeah.
artists as well as the museums that contributed. I'd just like to take a moment to thank them individually before we begin.
Yes,
CAG
please.
Modern Director Ashish Anand and CEO Kishore Singh for giving access to their archives and also for their constant encouragement for Art First endeavors. Roshni Vadera, the director of Vadera Art Gallery, Vivan Sundaram, promoters and directors of Kiran Nadar Museum of Art, National Gallery of Modern Art, Queensland Art Gallery, Sakshi Gallery, Saffron Art, the Raja Ravi Verma Heritage Foundation, and the Siegel Foundation for the Arts. I've listed a number of museums without whom this book would probably be very,
Won't
very
have been
different
possible. Yeah.
without them. And we're also very indebted to the artists Arpita Singh, N.S. Harsha, K.P. Reggie, Rameshwar Druta, Rekha Rodbitia, Sudhir Patwardhan, and Vasu X Vasu. These are the
And
artists
R.
who
Vijay, and R. Vijay, who's,
are Vijay as well. I'm
yeah,
so
yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
when we kind of go deeper into the conversation about the books, you'll
Yeah.
see why there is such a wide variety of artists that we've selected. And I think to jump right into it, Gopa, could you read? I know that you're so familiar with the book, but do you think you could read out the blurb of the book to us before we get into it? We know that it's a book. based on Indian art for children. We know that you, an artist and educator, have written it with a very, very critical and insightful approach. But what is it that the book kind of hopes to introduce children to or young readers to?
So basically, the book aims at introducing children in India to Indian artists, which, as we all have grown up, at least for me, I was never aware of the Indian artist, contemporary Indian artist, or what was happening in the field of Indian art while I grew up, or even till the time I entered college. That was the first time I got exposed to the world of art. And everybody else seems to feel alienated um, to the entire idea of Indian art. Is there an echo?
No, not
There's
for me. But I think you'd be more comfortable if you used headphones. I don't know if that would help.
all right. I can just try that. No, right now I don't hear. I think it's fine. So, uh, what was I saying? So, yeah, so basically the idea was um, that the children should be exposed to as many Indian artists as works of Indian artists while they are growing up. Actually, I will remove these. I think they are just talking.
Okay.
I hope it's fine for you.
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
All right. So, yeah, so it came out of my own experience, our own collective experiences, that when we have grown up, we have not had any clue about what is happening in Indian art or what kind of works are there, so to say, in our own cultural history. Uh, so this book is an attempt to expose children to as much works of Indian artists of Indian origin, to sort of um, have and these are the activities that are there in the book are very basic small activities, which any which ways all the children play and are introduced to from a very young age, um, but the images that are used are very generic. And as you have right now called out all the names of the artists, one can see it's a variety of artists coming from various backgrounds, various parts of the country, both
Various
men,
generations also.
various generations, both men and women. So it's a very diverse exposure to the visual language, so to say, of our culture, which I think is important that it should become the part of the child's visual vocabulary while they are growing up, which I think we missed out on, as at least my generation did. I feel in
What's interesting is that even though you and I were probably in school at very different times, our art class syllabus was very likely the exact talk about the need for there to be a diverse exposure to the visual cultures that
yes.
one surround us in our personal lives, as well as the representations that we see of the variety of people that we kind of encounter.
Yes,
Thank
exactly.
you for kind of running us through the book. I'd like to go a little bit deeper into it. We've covered the outline of the book. It is a very game and activity-led experience. But I personally still stand by the fact that one of the features that stands out absolutely is the use of a very, very diverse cast of artists. Um, do you think you can share the motivation, go a little deeper into what motivated the use of this wide variety of art that transcends genre, form, generation, as well as give us
So,
a little bit of insight into the artists that have been used, whose works have been used?
basically, yes. So basically, if we go by the name itself, people and places. So the book is talking about
people, different people,
Mm-hmm.
and introducing children to ideas of different places. For example, what's a village, um, what are the lives of people while they are who are factory goers, people who dwell in small towns, people who dwell in big cities. And if you see, just like the works, the artists themselves come from varied backgrounds. There are artists from Kerala who hail from Kerala. There are artists who are from Baroda, artists who come from metropolitan cities, artists who come from various generations that you had mentioned. Some are young artists, and also the book has works from Indian miniatures, which talks
Yeah.
about. And Indian miniatures, as we all know, they are compiled, illustrated albums of talking about the lives of people, of perhaps in this book what have been taken are from 12th to 13th 14th century works. So that gives an insight to children into what used to happen of the era of the kings and wars, to coming to this time, new age of technology, where children are, and also works of children going to school in perhaps in a small setting of a small town of Kerala, which is a KP Reddy's work that's there.
Do you think you can show us the artwork that you're talking about?
Yes, exactly. I can. So I before that, like it says, this is the Sudhir Patwardhan work, which you can see is a landscape of Bombay. Then there
And
is
it's part of the spot the difference
as
exercise,
part
isn't it?
of spot the difference exercise. I'm just looking at that work by Keith Reddy.
If our viewers have any questions or comments just about the book or about the approach, specifically for people and places, we encourage you to share all your comments and observations.
I'm unable to find that work right now, but I can show you another work.
That's the best part about this book, isn't it? You can't find
Yeah,
one image, you have so many more to kind of fall back
yes,
on.
exactly. So if you see, this is a work by N.S. Harsha, and this is the image, and these images are not for children to I think I don't know if you were going to ask or not, but I feel when it's not that children should be knowing the history behind these works. It's about the book is to explore their understanding of the works. What do they make of these people walking? What do they? Where do they think these people are going? Uh, why do they think that these people are crossing the river? What is this fairy perhaps doing right here? So these are
Right, right.
certain, and these are images to engage with and to develop their understanding of the world around them through the cultural production of the time itself. So I think that's a very good way of exposing children um, to um, to the exposing children to what you say visual arts, at the same time understanding, make building an understanding of the world around them as
Hmm.
well.
You know, this was actually a great place for me to jump off into my next question. Something I'd like to talk about is exactly this aspect of what one takes away from the art. And a lot of people tend to feel very intimidated by the idea of art. They have a very elitist opinion of art, that it is meant not for me. Art tends to be quite othering. However, for the parents and educators who could feel intimidated by this book, it is just because they're very unfamiliar with the landscape that the book kind of puts forward. Um, there
Uh,
obviously is uh, an angle of intimidation. But at the same time, I feel like you come from a place of,
So,
oh, Gopa, there is an echo. Can you use headphones? Would it
okay.
be possible?
All right. So when I'm using the headphones, this is echoing for me. I don't know why. I think.
Is this any better? Is this good?
Yeah, this is good. Yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah.
So the question that I'm trying to ask you then is, does one need to know everything about art in order to explore a book about art, especially when you're exploring these books with a child?
So basically, the first statement that you had made about the feeling of alienation that one has, that everybody feels that art is unapproachable and art is something that they do not know about. And also that can be a concern that, that's the concern of most of the people, even people I know in my family feel that, oh, art is not for us. But
Mm.
that is exactly the reason why we thought of coming up with a book for children. It's because as a generation, we have never been exposed to the artist or the art of our of India, of or any kind that's being of the contemporary times, that we feel that, oh, art is something that we cannot understand. It has to be seen in the museums only. One has to go there to understand. Artist needs to tell the concept. So what that has done is that it has broken the habit of trying to engage with the visual itself and trying to decipher meanings on our
Hmm.
own. And that's why it's extremely important if we also had this exposure at a very young age, where we were comfortable looking at art or looking at any
Yeah.
work as a visual and
Mm.
trying to make meanings, find out meanings, have our own interpretations, we would have a better um, grasp of understanding the symbolism of any work. So, visual arts also needs practice to kind of, you need that engagement with visuals to in order to understand their
Mhm.
meanings better. And once a child has that at a very young age, it's going those children will grow up to be much, they will not feel this alienation. They will find it absolutely approachable, because uh, like one doesn't feel, it's like learning how we learn a language, English or Hindi. How does
Mm.
a child pick up a language? It's similar to that. The more you expose to them, no parent, nobody worries, how will I teach this language to this child? Children,
Mm.
as many languages they get exposed to, they just pick on words, put two and two together, and somehow we all learn to speak a language. It's similar to that, I think. The more visuals you show them, variety of visuals you show them, more proficient they will become in trying to create meaning. And even that will also become part of expression, because children are
Mm.
very expressive. They express with visuals when they grow, when they are born.
Mm.
Before speaking, they start expressing through visuals, whether they are scribbling or whatever. But then
Mhm.
there is a huge break of okay, this is art, and what you do is not art, perhaps. So they are not exposed to that, and then all of a sudden that alienation or that gap arises. And
Mhm.
I feel so visual literacy somewhere gets compromised. And
Mm.
it's just like any other language. I think visual language also needs to be part of a child's growing up years,
Right.
which will eventually make them more expressive as well later.
So, Gopa, that was a really, really interesting insight that you shared, and it almost felt like you were breaking the barrier of that kind of preconceived notion that exists that art needs to be only in a museum by one bringing it out in the form of a book. And also one of the more interesting parts of um, art first books is that our books come with a guide right at the beginning of the story. There is a how do you use this book. One of the most essential pointers is ask the right questions. So
Exactly.
there is an introspection that you kind of instigate within the child. So your role then as a parent and as a teacher is not really as a guide, but it's more of as like just somebody that's exploring this world alongside you. However,
Exactly.
and I feel like given the exchange, given the interaction, the amount of conversation this kind of growth requires, it's almost as if the parent and child or the student and the teacher could learn from one another, right? I'm sure that there's something that the student would observe
Definitely.
that completely makes the teacher.
I think the parents will also completely enjoy while engaging with the children. It's there are games like Spot the Difference, which I also enjoy till now. I think when the book came out, even if I was part of it, I was like doing Spot the Difference. Um, there are certain projects or games in it which are to do with matching the shapes. So and also it needs a lot of eye and hand coordination from the child to kind of parents can definitely help with that. Uh, all the parents need to do is to ask the right questions, right, like you said, and listen to the children because children will
That's
respond.
essential.
Children
Absolutely.
will
Listen to the
respond
children.
to the children will respond to the images themselves. They will ask questions because children any which ways ask a lot of questions, and they might ask why is she wearing this, why is she wearing that, because these are paintings, some of the paintings from Raja Ravi Verma's uh, one of the works from, I hope I can find it now. So yeah, exactly. So they are in paintings done by artists in supposing 18th century. Of course, people dressed a different way at that point of time.
Hmm.
So a child will get intrigued looking at those images and will
It's
ask
almost as
questions.
if this image is like a time machine, isn't it? One, it comes
Exactly.
from a different generation. With the generation comes its own lore, stories, its politics, its incredibly deep history, its in this rich heritage and tradition that comes with them. And I feel like with the boon of just being surrounded by knowledge, um, the
Exactly.
fact that
And
one image has the power to incite this much of just the power of a question, something you and I've talked about before, is that um, asking questions is never a bad thing. You should always know that it's never a bad thing to ask questions,
it's never a bad thing, yeah.
and the fact that an image itself can incite a conversation and a dialogue between I don't know a variety of generations in itself is it's quite an achievement. Um,
Yes, I think so, yes.
I wouldn't like it would be quite exciting to see like a 7-year-old child talk with their parent about just just have a conversation about something that's in front of them as
And
opposed to it. Sorry.
And I would like to add, like, parents also need to give the space to the child to sort of accept whatever they are saying, even if they
There is no
think
right or wrong answer.
there's
There is
no right
no
or
right
wrong
or wrong
with it.
answer. Right.
That, like, maybe for a parent, it might seem, no, this person is sad, and the child says, I think this person is very happy. Instead of being dismissive, I think what the parent's role would be to ask them the reason why they feel, to
Why?
validate their observation. Perhaps the child has a very valid observation. And another point that I would like to add here is that although the works are from say 13th 14th century to contemporary times, the beauty of the artwork is that its interpretation is always open to interpretation.
Right.
um, yeah, and a child of today's world, how that child interprets a work or an image produced in say 11th century or 12th century, it's intriguing to see. It's like it's like a time machine, you sort of go back and have
It
a peek
transports you
into,
to a completely different
yeah,
world. Yeah.
we teach children history. We want to teach children history, but why can't it be a visual intervention? Why can't they be shown visuals instead
Wow.
also at the same
Uh-huh.
time? It's not necessary that they read history at a certain age. They can be exposed to it from before as well. We show them family history, family photographs as well of grandparents of the previous generation when
Mm-hmm.
and so I think it's important to expose them to as many images as possible.
I feel like this is a great jumping off point then into I know something that you absolutely enjoyed while writing. I'd like to talk like quickly about the games that we've mentioned in the book. Correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong, but there is counting, search and spell, spot the differences, material explorations, riddles, and am I missing anything? Jigsaws.
And jigsaws, yes. And there are like stickers, so you have to find the missing person. For example, this is a portrait and there is a missing person. So the child has to go and uh, look for the sticker that according to them might fit. And these are basically
In
stickers, if you
wow.
see. And this is an entire sheet. And they have to try and figure out who might be the people.
Gopa, if you could hold the book a little higher, right now it's out of frame.
Sorry. So these are several stickers that are given for children to kind of choose from. And so it's like a missing persons report. So they have a poster and they have to kind of figure out who that person is. And the characteristics of that person are given, like, for example, she is wearing a maroon silk robe. She looks thoughtful, perhaps a little sad. She was last seen painting in her art studio. So if this is the
Hmm.
image, and then you have to look for that person uh,
And that's
in
like a
that.
great space or a great area for, I don't know, the readers to also get prompts that they can associate within themselves as well. Questions along the lines of these questions are the ones that maybe you can bring out or that you can ask yourself or the person that you're reading the book with. So
Exactly.
it's a very do it yourself kind of approach. Like despite the incredible amount of work that has been put into the book, I feel like there's not much alienation that takes place. Because every step of the way, there is like a tip or a trick or something that you can find that will help you deepen your engagement with the book and help you enjoy the book. And
Exactly. And I would like to add one thing. I don't like one thing I believe personally is that nobody's too young or too old to explore any work of art. I mean, or to start, basically. It's all about practicing more and more. It's just like I said, language. Same as with visual language. The more you engage with it, the more you will get the hang of it, and the more you will understand or decipher
hmm.
things better,
So,
basically.
speaking of this engagement and deciphering what we have at hand, um, could you maybe uh, tell me about how exploring the context of this visual vocabulary that you're trying to build, what are the elements that one kind of then dissects of the artwork? Because what you just read out, you kind of asked about a
So,
specific person, but what are the other things that one can
so
like
perhaps
find themselves in?
one can talk about what the person might be thinking, what might be the mood of the person that's there in the painting, because it's about what is the place that this person is standing in, what could
Do
be the
colors, material of the artwork, do things like this also factor in then to this, like to the larger
so
conversation? Is that
So
something that
I
you can
think the
explore?
colors will definitely lend into it. But for children, these are things that will come out of it's more of understanding what is the relationship between a person standing here and a person standing here according to
Hmm.
them. And what
Mm-hmm.
is it? It's their actions that will perhaps the actions that people are doing in those paintings that will, for example, if we look at, I will just show, for example, this. Um, that what is the space that a child is you can ask what is this space, what these people are thinking, where are they going, where they might be going, and why do they think they might be going there, what can they
Hmm.
talk about this person, this lady perhaps that who's standing here, what,
Hmm.
and what could be the conversation that might be happening between them. These are certain things that, this the age group that this book is for. They are very good at building stories. So
Hmm.
uh, if we ask them what could be the conversation, I think it'll be interesting for
It's going to be
anybody
an
to.
endless like narrative that the children then build. And I feel like I must reiterate that the artworks used have been picked so thoughtfully and so well that even if you don't have a child, it's almost like the child within you is going to be extremely curious. What are these colors? What is this being that I'm looking at? Where are they situated? And that in itself is a very, very powerful kind of motivation to pick up the book and open the book. And thank you so much for speaking with me, Gopa. And I think that I'd love to talk to you. And you know that every time I speak to you, I always learn something new. And I know we've kind of had conversations about the book, but once again, you absolutely wowed me with just how you carry your own ideas and how they then reflect in the work that you've put together. And
Thank you, Winona. Thank you.
thank you so much for speaking with me. And for those of you watching, thank you so much for joining us. You can buy
Thank
People
you,
and
and
Places from the link.
sorry for the echo and problems.
Thank you for staying despite the echo,
Yeah.
everybody. You can buy People and Places for yourself from the link in our bio. It's a link to the Amazon account. If you'd like to get in touch with us for more of our publications, there's a Linktree account, or you can DM us on Instagram or Facebook, and we will get back to you. Until then, I think Gopa's going to have a really nice evening leafing through this wonderful book that she's written, while the rest of us can only like wait for Amazon to deliver it. If you have Prime, you will probably get it tomorrow.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all for being here. Thank you so much, Gopa. Thank you to everybody here. Have a nice evening. Have a lovely weekend.
Have a
Enjoy
good
People and
evening.
Places.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.